The Supreme Court, who has shown a willingness occasionally to check Donald Trump just the tiniest little bit, has unfortunately unleashed him to pursue one of his culture war identity politics crusades by allowing him to enforce his ban on transgender people serving in the military. So they're doing this until the Ninth Circuit US Court of Appeals, which had previously refused to undo their injunction against the enforcement of it, makes a ruling. And that's wild for a lot of different reasons. But the idea that you say, okay, we're gonna allow the Ninth Circuit to decide this, and maybe they'll decide one way, maybe they'll decide the other. But in the meantime, fire people from their career, what, to that one day maybe reinstate them later? Like, what a wildly irresponsible way for the SCOTUS to act, but that's what they're doing. And we had 3 liberals who dissented against this: Sonia Sotomayor, Elena, Kagan, and Ketanji Brown-Jackson. All the rest, all the conservatives are like, yeah, just fire all those trans people. I know that they want to, like give their life to America, maybe lay their life down in defense of America, but screw them. Guess they shouldn't have been trans or whatever. And so one single paragraph is all they gave. It is normal in this sort of case, an emergency ruling like this, to not give like a explanation of it, but I feel like you could have said something when you're talking about people's livelihood being stripped away for them purely because of their identity, how they self-identify. I feel like maybe you could have said a few words, but no, in this case, they're not. All of this is coming from an earlier executive order from Donald Trump signed in January, stating that the federal government will only recognize male and female as sexes. I don't see why that means trans people couldn't exist. They still identify as those sexes, but identity is not a thing that's allowed under Donald Trump. It's all their feeble-minded, childlike understanding of sex and biology and all that ignores the fact that even those concepts are far more complex than they're willing to admit. But in any event, Donald Trump's rationale for why we can't have trans soldiers is one of the most deeply ironic things. He says that being transgender, quote, conflicts with a soldier's commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle, even in one's personal life. Says Donald Trump, who used his elite connections to dodge military service when other people who weren't rich and well-connected were going and dying in Vietnam. Then he spent literally decades denigrating the very idea of military service. And I know what the right's thinking, like, hey, suckers and losers thing hasn't been confirmed. Okay, that's fine. You know that he did this stuff on Howard Stern, right? You know that he talked about how dodging VD was his own personal Vietnam. The dude doesn't give a damn about military service. And when it comes to an honorable and truthful lifestyle, the dude's been sleeping around behind his wife's back for literally decades. And that's the consensual affairs, let alone the sexual assaults. And so the idea that he knows what it's like to live a life of service. He's the honorable and truthful one who has literally tens of thousands of adjudicated lies. But some trans person who just wants to serve in the army or whatever, screw you, get the hell out. That is such a grotesque dereliction of his duty as commander in chief. And any right winger who supports this, literally go F. I almost said the full word, go F yourself to the ends of the earth. And that includes Pete Hegseth, who says no more trans at DOD. Another guy with a whole bunch of allegations floating around in terms of not only being truthful with the effing around behind his wife's back, but the sexual assault allegations as well. These guys can't teach one of these soldiers a damn thing about being honorable. Sharon, what do you think?
And can Hegseth let us know about those so-called tours, the helicopter and all that nonsense that's still going on that we don't know about? Another story. I'll get to this because look, Donald Trump didn't have enough discipline not to grab in the you know what. He said he couldn't help it. It's just what you do. He couldn't help it, okay? But this decision by SCOTUS is so dumb. I wish one of the dissent opinions could have been given by you. There's a way you put it there, including the F-bomb, needed to be written down under I dissent. Because you're never going to, as this thing is legally tested and works its way through the system, this just said, you can do what you want right now. You're not gonna be able to make these people whole. And you know who else you're not gonna be able to make whole? Us, Americans. Because these people, transgender people, aren't throwaways. You said at the top, they wanted to serve our country. They're helping to protect us. They're helping to keep America safe, purportedly, okay? So now you just wanna throw them out. What about us? What about what that does to us? You're not gonna be able to make us whole.
They just want to serve. They just want to serve.
What a crime.
Like they're doing the thing that the right will be like, oh my God, there's nothing like military service. Support the troops, support the troops. Man, some of these people had those signs on their lawn for years and years and years when the only thing it meant to these right wingers was send them to die in Iraq and Afghanistan and nobody raised any alarm bells, no concern for them or whatever. But when something like 4,240 transgender people want to serve in the military. Oh, and by the way, when we have trouble actually recruiting enough people to fill our armed forces, screw them, you're banished. Utterly ridiculous. And now the most amazing thing to land on this is there are trans soldiers who are being told, not only by their commander in chief, but by their drunk head of the Pentagon, that we don't want you to serve, and they are fighting in court to still serve a country that continually tells them they're second-class citizens. That's how much they want to serve their country, a country that constantly assaults them and denigrates them, casts them as sexual predators or violent when they're the ones being beaten and killed around America. And even despite all of that, they want to serve. And the right says, piss off, we love Donald Trump, a guy who's never served anyone other than his own interests for even a second. What a weird, bizarro world we live in.